Welcome to Florida Focus, a college football podcast. My name is Brandon. I'm a lifetime Florida State Seminole fan.
And I am Chris, and I am a cautious Gator fan.
And we are putting aside our differences as rivals to bring you the fantastic world of college football throughout the Sunshine State. And Chris, it's finally here. The season is upon us. The year that should not be named, 2020, is finally rearing its head, and we're in the last quarter of it. But college football is here, and so we have the opportunity to talk about the greatest passion of our lives, arguably. So how you feeling about the Gators and the Noles and everybody else out there? Just season's upon us. What's your thoughts?
Just before we get going, I just want to let everyone listening know that we are taking all the precautions. I'm wearing a mask. Brandon's wearing a mask. We are at least 6 feet apart from each other. I'm currently washing my hands right now. So we're doing our part to get this season going.
Yes.
And I said I'm cautious because I'm feeling really good about it starting. How long it'll last, I don't know. But I'm starting to feel a little bit better about it actually happening. Yeah.
Same here. I was like our last episode. I just wasn't feeling it. I was like, I was a little bit down the dumps, but now it's here, and the season feels very imminent, and it feels very much like it's about to start. So I'm getting a little more hyped than I usually would be.
Yeah, and I told you before, for me as a Gator fan, it's kind of like it feels real weird because college football technically starts, but our season doesn't start till later in the month. So I'm excited, but I'm not going to be just as excited yet. And I'm like, okay, it's the real season at the end, but I'm really happy that it's happening now. And I'm still gonna watch and root, but I can't really get too invested till it's a whirlwind of emotions going on here.
I totally get it, man.
Yeah,
it's rough, and it's very much unknown, but we just want to dive in, and we want it to happen, and we just haven't been able to say with any certainty anything that's going to happen going forward. It's been rough on all of us.
Yeah. Yes, but I just hoping and praying that it actually starts and stays, and we can just be distracted a little bit.
Absolutely, and that's what we've always been open about in this show. This is a distraction. We know that. But given that, let's talk about that distraction. So the biggest thing since we recorded last, and we're gonna fully disclose this is September 1st. We're recording this, and anything could change at any time. But I'm going to give you the floor, Chris. The Gators have announced their schedule in the SEC. You know what your season will look like going forward. We already know it will be without the Seminoles. But give me your thoughts on the rundown, what the season looks like, and I think eventually we'll dive into your top 5 most important games.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit about the schedule. It's just the SEC. I think that Florida fans will all agree that we kind of got a good hand with the additions from the West. Kind of had a good setup, an interesting setup of where the games fall, like your Kentucky and your Tennessee. Those usually are typically at the beginning of the season, and now they're at the last games of the season. And the Tennessee game is going to be interesting because it's at Tennessee. It's the last game of the season. I was talking to some other Gator fans. It's kind of replacing FSU as that big rivalry game at the end.
Yeah.
Georgia kind of still falls in the middle of the schedule where it normally does. But the first few games, I would say 4 games are the hardest stretch. At Ole Miss, South Carolina, at A&M, and then hosting the defending champs in LSU. So we're going to really find out about our team after the first 4 games there. But overall, compared to other teams, I like our schedule. I think we've got a favorable draw. Especially considering who we got coming back and what we have coming back on both sides of the ball.
Okay.
Do you want me to go ahead and give you my top 5 games now, or
let's go ahead and we'll rotate in. So
okay.
I'll let you do your number 5, and you can bounce it back to me.
Gotcha.
Let's go ahead and run through the full schedule just real quick,
okay,
and then we can get a top 5. That's cool.
Gotcha. Yeah,
because so much has changed.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. So the way Florida's fell, we have 5 games. We have a bye on Halloween, and we have 5 more games. And assuming we win, are in contention for the East and win the East, we have after the season, there's a bye week for everybody, and in the SEC championship game, we have our first game in like early December that's not a championship game with Tennessee. Interesting. But so just a quick rundown. At Ole Miss to start off, home to South Carolina, at A&M, home to LSU, and then home to Missouri. So those 5 games, I think 3 of them are going to be really tough: Ole Miss, A&M, and LSU. And then the second half, you start off with Georgia in Jacksonville, hosting Arkansas at Vandy, hosting Kentucky at Tennessee. Georgia, that's the team in the East to beat, so you got to beat them. And then you get a little easier games following them. Arkansas, Vandy, maybe even Kentucky at that point, don't know. Then we really have to see where Tennessee is at the end of the season. We have to face them in Knoxville to finish it off.
All right. That's a pretty fair assessment. From top to bottom, that seems pretty right. So real quickly, we're for Florida State. And I think we found out that we have the same bye week, which is Halloween. But Florida State season will start September 12th. They'll be hosting Georgia Tech. They get a bye week. Then they are at Miami the 26th of September. Host Jacksonville State October 3rd. At Notre Dame October 10. UNC at home the 17th. At Louisville the 24th. Bye week. Then we're hosting Pitt November 7th. At NC State November 14th. Clemson November 21st at home. Virginia November 28th at home, and then at Duke December 5th. So some things got switched around from some previous schedules that were released. You play one game and then you get a bye week. That's kind of an odd place to put that, but that's just the way it kind of fell. Traveled to Miami, that's a big test. You get that easy Division II win. I say easy with quotes. We've seen 2 years ago, Florida State didn't get an easy win against a Div 2 opponent 2 years ago, so we'll see. Notre Dame, UNC, that's a tough stretch. Louisville's on the rise. You never know. Pitt's also a decent opponent, just like you're going to talk about with the Gators. When you flip to the other side, when we play Pitt, you just never know. It helps that we have them at home, though. At NC State, they've always given us trouble the last 20 years. We've talked about we've pretty much split the last 2 decades with that team, despite who's better. Clemson, obviously probably a national title contender. Virginia coming off of a really good season, but who knows who they'll be at that point, and then at Duke. So it really kind of shakes up the fact that you have no divisions this season, and it's hard to know where those high and low points will lie. Right. We got so many coastal draws. Those are just, even if you are probably 70-75% favored to win those games, because they happen now versus 3 or 4 years down the road, they make a tougher challenge. So it really makes what would have been a known schedule a little bit easier, kind of tough in that respect.
Yeah. There's it's going to be interesting that you aren't doing divisions, kind of what the SEC does in basketball. They don't do divisions. And so we've seen that before, but interesting. I mean, so many different wrinkles. You have that. You have Notre Dame who a lot of people are high on Notre Dame to contend with Clemson.
Yeah.
So, of course, FSU gets both of them, right? And then, but that stretch, though, that Notre Dame, North Carolina, and then finishing off at Louisville, that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
Going into the bye week.
And, for the Gators, I agreed. Again, with those SEC West road games, you've talked about those a lot.
Yeah.
Especially you got Ole Miss and Texas A&M and within a 3-game stretch. That's tough. You do get some interesting ones. Obviously, Georgia's quote-unquote neutral. I like to pick your brain sometime. Who actually considers that a home game? But anyway, another conversation for another day. Obviously, at Vandy's not any kind of contest. And at Tennessee, that is a very interesting, because they're on the rise. You think everybody wants Tennessee to be good. You like Pruitt as a hire. If you play them early in the year, I would take Florida by 3 touchdowns. But later on, when they figure it out, it kind of feels like that 0-1 matchup where Florida-Tennessee was going to play early on and Florida's going to cream them, and then it got moved because 9/11, and then all of a sudden Florida loses that game.
Yeah.
That's the kind of feel I had. I was like, man, this is flashing back to like 19 years ago.
Every thing I saw or heard from Gator fans online, when the schedule was released, that's one of the first things they said about that Tennessee game.
No
They're
kidding.
like, well, we remember last time we played Tennessee in December.
How about that?
Yeah, it doesn't go away. So, yeah. And you're right, because that year, had we played them in September, it's an easy win for us. So, again, with Kentucky, too. You watch out for Kentucky.
True.
They've always, I mean, you go back how many years, they just always seem to give us their best. I'm glad it's in Ben Hill. One thing though that helps with the Tennessee game, hopefully we'll be in contention for the East, so it'll mean more. We won't, let up. But I mean, Tennessee could look at that as, we can ruin Florida's chances. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough one.
Yeah. Well, it's been a long time since that matchup's meant something, just because Tennessee has been struggling.
Right. So. Yep. Good point.
Yep. All right. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. We're gonna alternate our top 5 just out of the schedule. We'll go 5-1. What we think would be the most important matchup. So I'll let you go first, as always. So number 5.
Yeah. We're just start off with the first game, and that is at Ole Miss, and for many reasons, because obviously, if you look at it from, we'll start with Lane Kiffin. Gator fans do not like Lane. A lot of fans do not like Lane Kiffin, but Gator fans still don't like Lane Kiffin. My wife, who she follows college football, on Saturdays, but nothing in between, no off-season stuff. When I told her that he's the coach of Ole Miss, she just gave me this like she wanted to vomit look. And every time I mention his, like, even she knows how awful he is. He's a good coach. I'll give him credit. Like he is starting to prove himself as a coach with the talent that he has. But if we don't like him at all. But it's just being the first game of the season with all the changes on the road. It's a noon game, which it might be 11 locally for them. So it's just going to be. It's the first game of the season. The first game. I mean, no one had spring ball. First real meaningful tackles in a long time. So you want to get your team on the right foot. This one is obviously where you start, and you're going to need this victory. And you don't have to be pretty. You have to win this game, because starting 0-1 in the SEC on with this schedule and with the new setup, it's going to be tough. So Ole Miss is it's number 5 for me.
I like that. You made a lot of good points there. I didn't even think about it. Especially start 0-1 in the conference. But as you'll see in my number 2 pick for Florida State, early season matchups mean a lot. But my number 5 pick for Florida State is Duke, and that is the team that ends the season for the Noles, playing them in December. Chris, did you know that Duke has never beaten Florida State in football?
I did know that.
Yeah, probably because I told you.
Probably. That's where I learned it.
If Duke had stayed in the Atlantic Division when the ACC decided to split, Florida State would probably had like a Florida over Kentucky streak. We would have rivaled some of those things like Notre Dame versus Navy.
Right.
Or I think it was Nebraska over Kansas. Some pretty decent streaks that some teams had over teams they played every year. But after like the split in 2004, we didn't play them every season, and then we've still never lost to them. But that streak would have meant a lot. We actually did match up against them in 2013, our national title run. They played us in the ACC title game. Right. But anyway, flash forwarding to 2020, that's a huge matchup. You got to end your season on a good note.
Yeah. You
also can't let this be the year that you get an asterisk where you're like, hey, this is the first time we ever lost to Duke.
Yeah.
And you got to send your guys out with a pretty proven victory. Now, it's on the road. It's in December. I get that, which is why it's lower on the list. But you've got a lot of matchups against coastal teams you don't see a whole lot, but every few years. These aren't a lot of guys that you're recruiting against because they're up in the Tobacco Road schools up in North Carolina. these are teams you just have to own. You have to make a statement by ending the year by saying we're going to win. We want to win comfortably. We have to be able to show that we can continue to beat a team and a program that we've owned in the past.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good point. At the very end of the season, you definitely want to end well, and on the road, it's going to be tough. Even if it's a team that's never beaten you.
Yep,
it's very important to finish strong. Yeah.
All right, and number 4 for you.
Number 4 is also my last game of the season, is at Tennessee.
Okay.
And like I said, normally they're at the beginning of the year. I like it. I really like having them at the end, though. Just because we're so used to finishing off the year with this hated rivalry. And there you go. And that's my number 2. And on the road, going to be a tough game. You know they're going to want to. I mean, I don't even know the numbers now, but it's some ridiculous, like, I want to say 11 out of the last 12 or 12 out of the last 13 games we've beat them.
Yeah.
Some ridiculous number. And everyone's saying that they're up and up. You know, Pruitt's finally got them going. I think they're ranked like 25th in some polls. So we might be in contention for the East. So, yeah, we're going to want to finish strong with that. And I really want to beat Tennessee. Since Florida State is not on the schedule, they are public enemy number 1 for me this year.
I get it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you're right. The East very much going to be in contention. I highly doubt Tennessee's in the mix at that point, but Florida might be.
Yeah, right.
And I kind of expect them to be into the last 3 weeks. So, I like that pick. I want to get that Fulmer Spurrier feel back with Tennessee, Florida.
Right.
So,
I'm okay the way it is, but you want that. And you could argue that game could go higher. I mean, just because where it falls on the schedule, you could definitely argue it's higher. But I'm gonna put it at number 4.
4-ish. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I think that Florida State's got again an interesting schedule, and I'm going to put the number 4 team on our schedule is North Carolina. That's one of your favorite teams. We've already discussed that earlier on a top 5 teams that aren't our favorite.
Right.
But UNC's on the rise. I have a hard time saying it's not Mac Brown, but I'm going to say it anyway. And, they stole Sam Howell, who was going to be a recruit at Florida State, and he's their starting quarterback, and had a great season. One of the best in the nation by some stats. And probably a top 3 quarterback in the ACC. So, I really want to get at these guys. I really want to get them at home, get them where I want them, show all the other ACC powers, hey, Florida State still got something in the tank, and still want away from them. Because the ACC doesn't have divisions this year. We kind of talked about this earlier, and it's all about winning percentage. But if there were divisions, I think North Carolina would probably rival Miami with who's going to win the Coastal.
Mm-hmm.
Since we don't have to worry about that, it's just up to Florida State to go back to the days of dominating that game. And UNC has always had some talented guys, and they've had some good rosters and some decent coaching, but they've never amounted to titles or championships. And so I really think that this game has kind of been shoved up a couple of years. We were supposed to play them in, 23, 24-ish. Let's just make a statement now. Let's just go ahead and take that victory. And if we don't, let's just show that we can contend with an up and rising ACC team, which is what I think UNC is.
Yeah. I think it's one of those games that, UNC is probably ahead of Florida State in a lot of areas. But that's a game that's winnable. Florida State, a statement game, a potentially statement game for them.
Absolutely.
I think they can, especially being in Tallahassee. You could say UNC is the better team. Obviously, Norvell's first season versus Max, I don't know, his third or something like that.
Yeah.
So UNC is ahead of them in many ways, but it's winnable. I think Florida State, this is a game that you can go, okay, realistically, out of the teams that are better than us, who can we beat? I think this is one of them.
Yeah. Couldn't have said any better.
Important. Yeah.
Nice take.
Thanks.
Hey-o.
I learned from the best.
Hey-o. Okay, well, let's keep learning. Let's go to number 3 and see what you got.
Number 3 is at Texas A&M, and this is early on in the schedule, and where it falls in the schedule is important. It's the third game, and it's right before the LSU game.
Yeah.
On the road, right before the defending national champs, who are your rivals. This is going to be a tough one. This is going to be tough to not look past, but there's reasons to play hard for this game. One, you want to get a little bit of revenge, because last time you played them, they beat you in the swamp. So there's a little bit of that. There's the Jimbo factor. He's had our number at FSU.
True.
So you definitely want to prove that you can beat Jimbo. I mean, we're going to really if we beat Jimbo, we're really going to soak that in a little bit. But another reason is, if you look at the SEC, you have your tiers of teams, and right now the top are your Alabama, LSU, and Georgia. But right below them is A&M and Florida, and maybe you can throw in Auburn there too. So this really gives us, can we separate ourselves from the second tier into the elite tier of the SEC? And if we can't beat A&M, we're not there yet. So I think that it's, especially where it falls in the schedule, I think you're going to get a real true test of what type of team we are. You should beat Ole Miss. It might be close, but you should beat them. You should beat South Carolina. A&M, that game you could lose. That game, they're a talented team. Kellen Mond, he's a talented quarterback. Jimbo knows what he's doing. So this game, I'm really going to see, okay, after this game, if we can win this game, then I'm like, okay, I have a real good sense of who we are going into LSU and going into the rest of the season.
I like that. One comment you made, I'm kind of curious about. I wonder if, with the loss of Chase and Burrow, if LSU doesn't drop into that second tier of SEC teams. That's my first thought. But everything else you said about Jimbo, and I actually had forgotten that A&M had beaten Florida on the road. That's a whole lot of revenge factor. Plus, it's a pretty big benchmark on how the program's going, right? Mm-hmm. You got a team rising out of the West, and you got good coaching and experience with the players. That's a really good 3 pick. In fact, so good I thought it should have been number 2 or 1. But I think I know where we're going.
I think you can argue number 2. I don't think you can argue number 1. But yeah, well, with the LSU, you're right. Right now they're in the elite because they just won. I'm going to give them credit.
Sure.
But at the end of the year, you're very well. They might not. They might be in the third tier.
Yeah.
But as of right now, they're ranked number 6. They just won it all. I think they're up there.
Perfect. I can't behoove a team that just won a national title.
Yeah.
Good point.
So that's my 3.
Cool. So my number 3, I kind of struggle with this, but I'm going to go ahead and put Notre Dame in number 3. This is a team Florida State hasn't played in a while and has a lot of really storied history, but it's a night game. NBC's got it highly televised. I don't like the Irish. I don't really know anyone that does like them. Got to make a good showing here. This is not a game I expect us to win, but I really feel like going up to South Bend, it's early enough in the year. You should still have all your horses running hot. You should still have a lot of your main players without injury. You should still be motivated. This will be a huge test with Norvell and his staff to know where they are. Speaking of benchmarks, this is a pretty big one. You just simply can't afford to go on the road and get blown out.
Yeah.
I was actually at the 2010 game when Florida State traveled to Oklahoma, and this was Jimbo's first road game, and we got torched 34-14 or something crazy. You just can't do that at this point. I understand how good Notre Dame is, and you're like you said, they're going to challenge for the ACC. But this is one where you got to show up. You're going to be on Notre Dame Broadcasting Corporation, NBC, and so you got to be there. You can't let yourself get blown out. You got to show some discipline. The last time Florida State played Notre Dame, it went pretty bad. And you have to maintain your reputation. And this is the first place to do it.
Yeah. No, well said. Yeah, it is a lot about reputation. And really, you're not even though they're technically ACC, you're kind of representing the ACC. I think a lot of the teams are going to look at it that way. Like, they're not part of us. they're a temporary part of us, but not really part of us.
True.
Because they've been dodging it for a while. So yeah, reputation. Have a good showing. Don't look ahead too much because North Carolina is right after them, and just show up.
Yeah,
I think Norvell will have his guys at least show up.
That's the hope here. I won't say any more because I can't give away my 2-1. But yeah, showing up is huge.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, what you got? Number 2, Chris.
I have Louisiana State Tigers.
Oh, gross! Who says Louisiana State? Come on.
I do. I say it. Yeah. I mean, like, we've talked about it. They're going. They're losing some players. Players are opting out. Burrow's not there. They're definitely going to take a step back. We have them at the Swamp, but this is still a huge game. We don't like them. They're the defending national champs, even though they're not the same team. I get that, but still want to beat the defending national champs.
Sure.
You still want to. I'm interested to see how we respond after A&M, whether we win or lose, how we respond to a tough game. It's going to be a tough game the week before. And try not to get too ahead of ourselves with Georgia would be the next big one on the horizon. But at LSU, the last couple of years, it's been right up there. I think it's just as important. You can make arguments for A&M. You can make arguments for Tennessee. But I think proving if you could take down the defending national champs, again, solidifying that you are a legit contender in the East and in the SEC.
Yeah, great pick. Team coming off a lot of success. Despite missing parts, you still got a lot of things coming back, and it really, to me, the thing that sticks about LSU is where it lies in the schedule.
Yeah.
Because you can actually come into that game better than a team, but because of who you played last 2-3 weeks, you might lose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it will show a lot about Mullen's integrity in the coaching staff.
Yeah. Yep. And I remember a handful of years ago, but we had just beat someone pretty big prior to playing them in the Swamp. They had just lost to Troy. And we thought we were going to roll over them, and they come out and just beat us. And that's really stuck with a lot of Gator fans. And we can't get over the hump of beating them in Baton Rouge just yet, but still, beating them in Ben Hill would be great.
Sure. Yeah, give the fans what they want.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. All right. Moving on to number 2. I wonder if you can kind of guess at this point, but Brandon's going to take Georgia Tech as the second most important game in the schedule.
Okay.
Give me a second here to justify why. Georgia Tech is projected to be the worst team in the ACC this year. They're only a year and a half removed from a Paul Johnson triple option offense, and are still figuring themselves out.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I think they won 3 games and lost to South Florida. So not a lot of success there on the field. But for some reason, Willie Taggart's first game against Virginia Tech will not leave my mind. We lost 17-3 at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it set the tone for his tenure, but it probably didn't help it, right?
Right.
A game where you don't score a touchdown, you have a wide receiver drop a ball in the end zone, you had a long 45-yard rush play that resulted in nothing, you had a missed field goal. You actually held the team long enough to keep your offense in the game, and you had 1st and goal, and you fumbled the ball away.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first game of the Norvell era means a lot. You have to come out and say, hey, we mean business. And this may be a team that we should beat easily, but this is what we're going to do. So if option A is we're going to squeak out a victory, option B is we're going to lose by a little bit, or C is we're going to lose by a lot, which one are you taking? So we have to come out and show at home to the, 25% capacity that will be there, plus the national televised game that it will be, that Florida State actually has made some changes. And I think that some people will give a pass to, hey, Florida State gave their best and lost. I will not. You have to come into this game and say recruiting, coaching, and everything else before COVID-19 lockdown gave us better players, and we are a better team and going to win this game comfortably. Plus, we haven't played Georgia Tech in a long time. We actually do share a lot of recruiting ground with these guys. A lot of people don't know Georgia Tech geographically is the closest school to Florida State. They're only 5.5 hours away. So we're recruiting a lot of the same guys from the Panhandle of Florida, South Georgia, even the east and west parts of these rural counties, these grass-fed guys that just live in the country. This is huge. We have to show in this area and to Georgia Tech fans that we will not be pushed around. It wasn't even so long ago we lost to Georgia Tech, and we need to make sure we make it right.
Man, I was a little surprised, but you make some really good points. I agree that you need to start off the Norvell era with a bang. I think you need to win, but not just win, but like win convincingly. I think because Florida State fans are just so tired of underperforming, you know. And this team, you said they should be the last, so you should not only win, but you should win going away. And I think like a 3-point win is really just gonna still leave fans, unhappy. So you need to win by like 3 touchdowns. It is an important game. It really is.
Do it. Go Noles. Okay, yeah. I got a little fired up. Just wait till number 1. All right.
Okay. All right. So is it me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So mine is a game in November. We host the Arkansas Razorbacks. Felipe Frank's coming back into town.
What?
It's really no. Are you kidding me? No. It's it's Georgia. Come on. Man.
Okay, you had me there for a second. Nice.
Yeah.
Well done.
I figured if I just kept going and no pause and commit, I would get you.
Oh. Good job.
Yeah, it's definitely Georgia. I mean, come on. They are the kings of the East. They have had our number. The gap has been closing, but has not closed it yet. Mullen seems to be, I don't know, just kind of tightens up and has been out coached the last couple of years by Kirby Smart. So everything. You got to beat Georgia. You could potentially lose to them and win the rest of your games because they play Alabama and Auburn and plus the East, so they might lose a couple. But
sure.
You don't want to just leave it to chance. You want to have control your own destiny, all that stuff. But yeah, Georgia's had our number 3-4 years in a row now. I don't know, starting to not like them a lot. So yeah, you have to beat them. Like if you want to say that you are legit, if you want to say that you're the best, if you want to be the top tier, I mean Georgia's it. Georgia is it. It's been it for a couple years now. It's the same here. Just can't quite get over the hump. Hopefully this year we do. So yeah, Georgia's number 1, and it's not even close.
Couldn't agree more. Since Kirby Smart's come in, he's kind of taken over the East, which came to everyone's surprise, nationwide. And you're right. Last year, you kind of mentioned like that was the most disappointing loss of the year. I get it. I think outside of the Gator fan base, like I am, you wouldn't expect Florida to win that game, and you would more expect to be a measuring stick. So, different expectations outside, but as a Gator fan, this is the absolute game you have to win. You could even drop a meaningless game like Arkansas, which you were talking about, just as as a joke, or like you're not gonna lose to Vandy, but if you lose a close game to someone crazy like Ole Miss, but you beat Georgia, you're remedied. You have righted the ship. It's almost like 2 wins versus 1 if you beat the Bulldogs, and so that's the one you absolutely have to get over. This is a year where the Gators didn't get Alabama in this weird switch. You got Arkansas. You still keep Vanderbilt. You played 2 of the worst teams in the conference.
Yes.
There's absolutely no reason you shouldn't be prepared for Georgia. And you're right. This is the game you have to win.
Yeah, we get a bye week before them, and then Arkansas and Vandy are following them. Yeah, if you are not hyped for this game or ready for this game, something's wrong. And if Mullen loses this game again, you start thinking or second guessing. I don't know. I'm not going to go there yet. He's done a lot for us. I mean, we made New Year's Six bowls and beaten a lot of good teams, so I'm not going to say that.
Right.
But say he loses this one again, I mean, I bet there's going to be some people out there that might start whispering.
Yeah, I mean, the whispers, which won't be justified in my opinion. If you're the Gators, you don't get rid of Mullen.
No, I'm not saying
that. But
yeah.
You're right. The comments will be there. They won't be justified. Year 3 of Mullen? Are we right?
Yeah.
4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, you got to give him some time. But there were people saying it for sure. And, with the way Georgia's had success, Florida has to make a move pretty soon to not live in their shadow in the East. And, maybe this is the shortened season that happens. I don't know.
Right.
But, huge one. Even in a regular season, Chris, wouldn't be crazy to put Georgia's number 1 game overall despite the schedule. That might be the number 1 game regardless of how this year would have played out.
Right. I think so. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm excited, though. I'm real excited.
Yeah. All right. So, my opinion, the number 1 game Florida State has on their schedule this season would be the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah.
And this is probably supplanted. Even if Florida had been on the schedule, I don't know the number 1 because we know we wouldn't win. This game is huge. Okay, we can talk about the recruiting implications. That's fine. We can talk about the coaching changes. That's fine. What matters to me is that Miami is definitely on the rise. I was joking with another Florida State fan, Miami has had the talent for the last 20 years. They have never had a drop off in recruits, 5 stars, etc. They have not been able to put it together. So, with the chance Florida State has here, it's your second game of the year, and you have a bye week before this game too. What are the odds, right? Come on, you're playing a really terrible team. Then you get another week to figure out what went wrong in Georgia Tech, and then you go on the road to play Miami. This is your chance. This is your one chance in probably 5 to 10 years where you play a team that you're not as good as, but you play them early enough in the season that you may slip up and beat them. Florida State fans may get mad at me for that comment, but I don't care. It's pretty clear that Miami is probably the 3rd or 4th best team in the conference, and Florida State's probably a 500 type of squad right now. Okay? We don't have the offensive line. This year, our defense is going to be pretty good. And this is a season where you have a little bit of experience on the offense and just enough everywhere else that you can kind of figure this out. If you have enough coaching, enough discipline, if you have enough motivation, if you have some guys that are starving to beat some people that you've kind of known throughout the state, this is your year. Florida State has to attack here and now and very strong. Under Jimbo Fisher, we only lost to Miami the very last time we played against them. You were talking about him earlier with Texas A&M. Well, here you go. Norvell has a chance here. And this is a very, very important game for how the season will play out. If we give our heart and soul in this game, just like we did against Miami in 2018, and we come up short, this could really set the precedent for, hey, Jacksonville State's around the corner, Notre Dame, UNC. This could really go downhill quickly. We've seen this happen the last 2 or 3 years. So beating the Hurricanes and playing very well means a lot to the Noles this year.
Yeah. Yeah, now everything you said was spot on. It's a game that, again, they are the better team, but it's a winnable game.
Yeah.
I think it's a winnable game. And you throw in the rivalry on top of that, and it's another good time to a benchmark to see where you're at.
Can't real stand Miami. One. Gosh. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to predictions. Well, we've talked about kind of the games that mean the most. So what do you think the Gators kind of fare toward the end of the year?
Yeah. So just a real quick recap. Number 5 for Florida. Ole Miss. Yeah. 5 Ole Miss, 4 Tennessee, 3 Texas A&M, 2 LSU, and 1 Georgia. Give me a quick rundown of yours.
5 Duke, 4 UNC, 3 Notre Dame, 2 Georgia Tech, 1 Miami.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so we'll just go down the list of games. Just give our quick predictions. I don't know if you want to do scores or just wait to the week to week to give scores or not. But
we'll let the fans kind of marinate with it. We'll give the scores as the games play out. But
okay. So I'm just going down the list of all the Gator games, and you go down the list of yours. All right. So at Ole Miss, I think it's going to be closer than it should, just given everything. I think it's going to be I think it potentially be an ugly, sloppy game. But I think that we have a veteran coaching staff and some veteran players, and we win. It's closer than it should. Maybe be uncomfortable most of the game, but I think we beat Ole Miss. Then hosting South Carolina. Oh, by the way, yeah, I forgot to mention the SEC starts September 26th, so you'll have a couple of games. Well, the ACC will have a couple of games in them.
Yeah.
So I think we beat Ole Miss, and then we go home to South Carolina. And this game, we know Muschamp what he can pull off some crazy games, but we should win this game. I mean, they've been a bit of a dumpster fire recently. So we should, as long as we don't look ahead A&M and LSU, I think we get that one. Then we go to A&M, to College Station. Do you remember what was significant about the last time Florida played at A&M?
Oh, man.
2012. There's two significant things.
Well, 12 was Manziel.
That was one. That's one significant thing.
Muschamp, Kevin Sumlin.
That was the breakout game for Manziel.
It was the breakout. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you guys played close.
Also, yeah. It was back and forth. Manziel, people were like, oh, this guy's legit. But that was A&M's first SEC game. Was us.
How about that?
In College Station, we won. So we going back there. We see Jimbo, Kellen Mond, and I say that we lose this game.
Wow.
Because you could say we're the better team, we should win, all this stuff, but coming Ole Miss, South Carolina, and then LSU next on the road, I know that the fans aren't going to be the same, but Jimbo is an experienced coach. He has an experienced quarterback. A lot of our question marks are on the defensive side of the ball, so I'm going to go A&M with this one. I don't like saying it, but the next is LSU back in the swamp, and I think going into the season we're evenly matched, but then LSU had some players opt out. And I think we want some revenge. I think we're not gonna we want to get that taste of a loss out of our mouth. So I think we beat LSU, and then let's see, right before our bye week we host the Missouri Tigers. And I think we should handle them pretty well. So the first half of the season, I have us going 4-1, going to the bye week, going into Georgia. So 4-1, still in the mix of things, and then is the game, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. What do you want to call it? Florida, Georgia, Florida, whatever you want to call it. This is the game of the year for us. They've had our number. I think the gap has been closing. I thought we were going to win last year, and this year I think we actually do pull it off.
Wow.
Barely pull it off. Just because they have, I believe, I could be wrong, they have a bye week before us as well. But they have to play Alabama. They have to play Auburn. They got to play a tough schedule too. So we've been circling Georgia for a long time now, and I just can't conceive us losing again to them.
Think you push through? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think we beat Georgia, and then we come back home, and what a great game to play after you play the game of the season at home against probably the worst team in the SEC. And you talk about a bad draw for schedules. Arkansas got a bad draw for schedules. We'll have Felipe Franks, but I don't think he has enough talent around him. So I think we beat Arkansas at Vandy. Might give us a little a half, maybe a quarter of tough, but I think we should
that's about
handle them fine. And then it gets kind of interesting. The last 2 games of the season, home against Kentucky. I don't know what Kentucky team we're going to see this year. And it being at the end, who knows? Who knows? But I think because of where we are in the East, the fact that it's at Ben Hill, I'm going to Gators to win that game as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wrap up at Knoxville. This one's a tough one. If my predictions are correct, we are probably the top of the East. Maybe Tennessee's right there at number 2. If not, we might have already had the SEC wrapped up. I don't know. Tough game. I say we pull it out and finish the season off 9-1. I know. This is not like me. I like to undersell. Yeah.
Well, if this is a year to take 9-1, this is the season.
Yeah, why not? Why not, right? I'm liking what I'm seeing in hearing in the press conferences and practices. I think offensively we're going to be okay. Defensively, I'm a little worried, but I know that we are talented. We're finally picking up the recruits, so I think we're gonna go to the next level this year and go 9-1.
How about that?
There are some games that I think that we could. I mean, you're right. Like an Ole Miss game that could sneak up on us. LSU, we could lose that game.
Yeah.
Tennessee, that one scares me a little bit. Just where it falls. So there are some games that I'm like, I'm not 100% confident on, but I think we're gonna win.
Okay. How about that? No, I will completely back you. You're usually a guy that's like, I'm gonna say we're gonna lose 2 games and we probably should win, kind of guy. And here you are. There may be a season of hope for the Gators.
Right.
that sounds like what you're projecting.
I mean, this year, like, forget it. Whatever. Everything goes out the window this year. Just whatever. Next year, we might get back to me going, oh, we're going to go 6-6. But this year, whatever. Let's just do it.
Nice.
Let's just go 9-1. Why not?
It's bold. I like it. You got to remind me, is the SEC having a title game this year?
They are.
Okay.
And it's a little later, the 19th, but yeah, we are.
Okay. The ACC is as well. But I haven't had to worry about it because I know we're not going to be there. Speaking of that, let me give you my schedule rundown, what the Florida State Seminoles should do this year. You start the season, Georgia Tech at home. I got this as a win. I really don't see a lot of ways Florida State loses this game. I do see a lot of ways it could be close. Georgia Tech does have some things to prove because they've got a lot of things that are rebuilding. And believe it or not, they have a little more experience as head coach. But they just don't have the talent. Bye week, then we play Miami. As much as it pains me to say it, I don't think Florida State wins this game. I think Miami does. I really think Miami's more talented. They got more coaching. They did have some guys return. Their offense is the biggest question mark here. Does De'Aaron King come out? If he shows up 75-80%, Florida State doesn't stand a chance. But if they're still a mess like they were the last couple of seasons, then we have a decent shot. But I think they will have figured at least something out. Plus, Florida State this year just will not be able to score points. And our defense probably won't be able to stop them enough. Jacksonville State, easy win against a Div 2 school. Not going to elaborate on that. Then we go to Notre Dame. Not going to elaborate on this. That's a loss. Let's see if there's any way we win in South Bend. Again, it's about respect and showing that we can compete and not get blown out. North Carolina at home. Mac Brown's interesting. He had a stint where he was a grad assistant at Florida State. He has a national title at Texas. Did he win it? Did Vince Young win it? Was he actually the guy that
he put him in?
That
you could have benched him.
Yeah, true. This will be one of the most contested games of the season.
Yeah,
and I like what Florida State brings to the table at home, but I really do think coaching gets Florida State here, and I think North Carolina wins the game. We'll be close, and it will be a pretty devastating loss, in my opinion. But I think that UNC prevails. Florida State plays Louisville. That's a game you should win. So I'm going to take the Noles in that one. Still a lot for Louisville to be rebuilding on. They have a lot of positive things going for them. But they're still crawling out of a hole Bob Petrino put them in. And I think they only won 2 games 2 years ago. So still a lot of progress to be made. Mm-hmm. After that, Pittsburgh. And this is the hardest game of the year for me. We were going to play them anyway, just before COVID messed up the schedule. And Pitt is basically Florida State mirrored. I mean, just great defense, pretty porous offense, pretty good coaching, except they have coaches that have been there for a while. Mm-hmm. Very low-scoring game. The first team of 20 wins. Mm-hmm. And I think it's Pitt. I think Pitt actually wins this game. Wow. They showed that they can play with teams like Penn State, who they almost beat last year. They did beat UCF. In a couple of years, we may be talking about Pitt being the contender to go through to win the Coastal. So I'm going to take Pitt to win that one. After that, Florida State recovers nicely with a little NC State win. The Wolfpack lost a lot of talent last year. They can't throw the ball anymore, pretty much. I don't know that they have any strength, actually. They do have good coaching returning. I mean, their defense has been decent. But their offense just won't be there. Clemson, that's a loss. Not going to elaborate there. Virginia, that's a pretty interesting one. Normally, I would take Florida State to lose this game, but I'm going to take the Noles in this one. Okay. They lose a lot. We came very, very close to beating Virginia in probably their best effort in the last 20 years last year, right? We were within 3 yards of tying the game going to OT, and they went to the Orange Bowl. Just based on credentials, not on their talent. But anyway, you saw that. Florida didn't even play their A game, and they beat Virginia pretty handily. But I'll take the Noles to win that one. And then on the road against Duke, streak continues. I think Florida State wins that one. So I have us at 6-5.
Okay.
I struggled because I was like, well, I really thought we'd be 5-6 somewhere. But looking at the other matchups, I just couldn't figure out the loss. So I'll go a winning record.
Okay. That's good. Just real quick, I have them going 7-4. Losing Miami, Notre Dame, Clemson. And I just picked a random. I think they're probably just going to lose a game that they shouldn't lose.
Yeah.
On the road at NC State. Night game. They shouldn't lose that game. They shouldn't. But I'm just gonna pick. I know they're gonna probably lose one, so I'm gonna pick that one. You can make Pitt and UNC maybe, but I'm just at this point I'm like, yeah, whatever, because we just don't know.
Yeah, exactly right. And there was a lot of games the last 2 seasons where you're like you're clearly a better team, but you just lose it for some weird reason. So I don't fault that at all.
What are your thoughts on UF schedule? What do you got? Prediction?
I don't think they go 9-1. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Might be right.
The LSU one, I kind of like that pick because it's at home for the Gators. Mm-hmm. I do agree with A&M loss because of where they're headed. I'm just Chris. I'm just not convinced that Florida can win those road SEC games yet. They're still 2 losses a year kind of team, and just like you say with Florida State, and you were right on, they're going to lose some kind of road game they shouldn't. The trouble is it's hard to figure out which one.
Right.
So my guess was Tennessee.
Yeah.
And that's tough. It's late in the year.
It's a tough one. That's a hard game. That's not going to be an easy win.
I would never have picked like a Vandy or Arkansas on the road. Yeah. But if Kentucky was on the road, I would pick that one too.
Right. Yep.
Honestly, but late in the year against Tennessee, I'm not being cliche here because I'm not a Gator fan. I haven't followed them, but that's still tough no matter who's put in that position.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree, and I don't fault you for saying that.
Well, we had an AP writer on the show was it last season? And he was talking about how Pruitt almost won SEC Coach of the Year because he surged late in the year.
Right.
And beat Auburn and beat a couple other teams. And then all of a sudden, now Florida's got them late in the season.
Yeah. It makes me nervous. It does make me nervous.
It should. And I'm going to tell you, I'm taking Georgia to win the ACC again. That's just the way I think it's going to be.
Even if we beat them? Are you saying we beat them?
I'm going to...
And I hate it's fine. I'm not going to take it personal.
No. That's... Now that I think about it, I can't really justify Georgia losing to Florida. So maybe that is 3 losses for me. Yeah.
7-3?
7-3.
Okay. So by saying that, we'll end up somewhere in the middle with 2 losses. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a conservative. Okay. I gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, you can't fault me.
No. Really, I mean, there's about 5 games that can go either way, I think. Maybe even 6, but yeah.
Well, I feel that way Florida State, too, where NC State was a coin flip. Pitt was a coin flip. UNC, but see, Pitt and UNC are at home, so I don't know. Normally you'd think, hey, a little bit of advantage, but are we pumping crowd noise in? Like,
right.
Are we doing 25% capacity? What exactly about home field makes you think it's an advantage this year?
Yeah. Okay, so most likely 8-2, but I'm going on the optimistic side.
Yeah. There. Well, and I could easily see like one of my picks, Florida, to sneak on a win.
Yeah. I don't think any of them are crazy though.
No,
I really don't. I think they're crazy.
An undefeated year is crazy thought, honestly.
I think so. Yeah, we're close. I don't know if we're there. We're close.
I haven't seen anybody rational saying Florida was undefeated, so I can live with that.
Yeah. Real quick, let's point out some of Miami's games, and then we'll finish off with maybe some updates on the other teams because they're still a little bit in limbo. But just looking at Miami's schedule, what do you think? I mean, obviously, just right off the bat, one thing that sticks out to me is earlier in the season they have Florida State, a bye, and then at Clemson. I mean, that's it right there for them, right? Like, if they want to compete, I mean, they gotta win. They gotta win those games.
Yeah, this is actually the year I would have really liked to see if Miami can turn it around. Don't tell anybody this, Chris, but it's actually good for football when Miami is good.
Yeah.
And like, I really want them to kind of be better than they are. You can see I'm tiptoeing here because I have to be careful. Somebody's going to quote me and blast this over the internet. But anyway,
you want them to win every game except when they play you.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like we're their only loss kind of deal. Because we look good. Here's what I'll say pretty safely. Miami has a lot of talent. Miami has the right kind of coaching. This is Diaz's 3rd year. 2nd year? He's been with the school forever. I think it's his 2nd year as head
He's been
coach.
with them, but as a coach, his first game was against us last year.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, 2nd season. And most coaches make their best improvement between years 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
You got UAB, easy win. You got Louisville, should win. Like I said, Florida State could give them a lot of trouble. Clemson, you're going to lose. Excuse me. But then you've got a lot of familiar foes. Miami picked up a lot of coastal teams in this shift, minus like Wake Forest, who's a pretty easy opponent. So they need to capitalize on the schedule.
Yeah.
They really should beat Virginia. They should beat NC State. They should beat Virginia Tech. Like, I look at what Miami has. This is a year they should easily only lose 1 or 2 games. But I've said that for the last 5 to 7 years. Right. So I don't know what to believe. Plus, they lose a lot of their defensive talent. So those are kind of my impressions. They have a chance to really make a statement this year. I just don't have the faith that they will.
Mm-hmm. I also look at that last game of the season there in North Carolina. They get them at home. Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
They got I think they're on the up. For sure.
If Notre Dame hadn't joined the ACC, I would have picked Miami to play Clemson in the title game.
I mean, a lot of people would have.
No joke. I really would have.
Yeah. And they don't benefit from playing them this year to prove that they can beat them.
Yeah.
No. So that's that. Just give us a quick update on the other ones because I know that they were still trying to figure out their schedules.
Sure. The American has, as of right now, September 1st, has yet to do, put out a schedule. I know that South Florida is still kind of up in the air. I think they might have one game scheduled. I'm not sure of that. The only game UCF knows they're playing is Georgia Tech. They're going to Atlanta. That is it. The American is taking their sweet time in announcing the schedule, which is frustrating for us season ticket holders, and it's been a little bit frustrating. So I think along those same lines, Chris, Conference USA hasn't announced either. Am I correct in that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so like the FIU is supposed to play UCF this year. That's, as far as I know, not happening. Florida Atlantic.
Some people, if you look online, they have schedules up, but I don't know how official any of that stuff is.
And I think a lot of those conferences are at the mercy of the Power Five, and I just, at this point, I don't know what else they're waiting for, because they can safely say, okay, the Big Ten and Pac-12 aren't playing. Can we match up with the other three that are?
Right.
It's been tough. I think this is just a theory here, Chris. The American actually is blessed and cursed in that a lot of their schools are located in huge metropolitan areas. Orlando, Cincinnati, New Orleans, Memphis, need I go on? And so they're really worried about COVID-19 contagion and all of that. The SEC, what's the biggest team? What's the biggest city an SEC team has?
That's a good question.
They're all pretty tiny, right? Even Tallahassee's pretty tiny. Gainesville's not very big.
Yeah,
College Station, maybe Baton Rouge. Tuscaloosa's not big. Athens isn't
Nashville.
big.
Vandy has Nashville.
Okay, so there you go. There's one, maybe another one. But the American has a very unique situation because they're all located in big cities and they're not close to each other. So if they have a season, they have to travel a lot and to big cities to do it. And I think that's another part of the reason why they've just waited so long. I really wish they had just kind of said, we're going to play whoever wants us to play and have a partial season, or we're just going to wait until the winter months. But you got teams in the north. Is the Big Ten really going to have football in the winter? Is Michigan going to play in February? Come on. They're going to be covered in snow. So anyway, there just hasn't been enough resolution, and I'm trying to justify why they haven't done it. And I guess it's because they're just kind of at the mercy of everyone else, but I'm not really sure.
All right. Yeah, well, interesting. Going back to Florida schedule, we're going to go, you mentioned the cold in Tennessee in December.
Oh, yeah.
Something that we're not used to. So
that might play a big factor, actually.
Just a side note that might be a big note. Yeah, I hope they figure it out, though. Selfishly, obviously, and those schools too, and season ticket holders, fans, players, figure out something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not fun being in limbo. But yeah, like I'm seeing that. Looks like. It's like USF has their schedule up with some of the times, but I don't know if that's official or not. I haven't heard either way.
I haven't heard officially either, so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe some of the smaller games have been confirmed, but I know for sure UCF just. Yeah, and that's another game that, like, as a UCF ticket holder, I want to go see.
Right,
Most people are like, "Oh, UCF, South Florida, that's a huge rivalry." It's really not. They've only played each other for like 7 years. Most people don't even know that. But yeah, it's frustrating the not knowing. It's incredibly frustrating.
Yep.
Man, holy cow! Well, that is a weird. I'm gonna put irregular 2020 season preview for Florida Focus, but. We've had a lot of thoughts, Chris. Fans are, again, probably yelling at us, and they think that we're wrong and our top fives are crazy, how can they reach out to us to give us their feedback on what we think about the season?
Well, you open up your window, just yell, and we will hear you. Or you go to FloridaFocusPodcast.com, and there you can find all past episodes and ways to contact us. Let us know that. Or you can tell me, hey, Florida's going 1-9, not 9-1. These are the reasons why, and what you think of Norvell's chances as first-year coach, or your thoughts on the other teams. But yes, FloridaFocusPodcast.com.
Very nice. And while you're in that podcast player of choice, just go ahead and leave us a star rating and a comment, because we do read those and we appreciate feedback. Or on the website, you can send the feedback directly, but we appreciate either way. And this is the first year, Chris, since, I don't know, the 60s, we can actually debate, hey, if Florida State played Florida this year, would they win?
Would they win? Right.
And I'm just preparing my debate right now for how we would win that game, because you can't prove it wrong.
I cannot.
It's all hypothetical.
I can fire the PlayStation and get a good guess, but that's about it.
Sim the game about 100 times. Yes. We'll see what happens.
Right. Go from there.
Very, very nice. Awesome. Well, Chris, as always, it's been a pleasure. Was there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
That is it. Let's just start playing, man. Let's just start playing. None of this. Yeah. Will we? Won't we? It's just like one of those. I don't know if you follow The Office or not, but for those that follow The Office, you had a couple of seasons of will Jim and Pam, won't Jim and Pam, and then finally when they do and have kids, you're like, yes, finally. Let's just, you know what, Jim and Pam, let's kiss already and get the show going.
That's very good. Yes, in The Office, that's a very perfect analogy. And I can't top it, so I'm just going to say this is Brandon saying go Bills.
This is Chris. Go Gators.